You're listening to the Chat City interviews on 103.2 Preston FM.
It's nice to welcome back is Janet Cullingford, and Janet is from ICANN. Now that is I and then CAN, C-A-N-N, and advocacy is a way of supporting people and enabling them to get their voice heard, particularly if they are disabled, disadvantaged, older, younger, a carer, or having difficulty with service of professionals. And Janet is in to tell us how things are going at the moment at ICANN, and also the support that could be available for yourselves out there. So very good morning, Janet.
Good morning, Hughie.
So you were just telling me that you've just had, is it your first audit, or you've just had an audit of how things are at the moment?
Well, our new pilot service started on the 1st of November, so we've just produced a mini report for the first 3-month period, really. So it was just to feed back to anyone that was interested how we were doing, and just to explain how you can refer yourselves to the service. The service is actually about supporting people to attend health assessments. Now, these are the health assessments for benefits for people who are claiming either employment support allowance, most people call it ESA, and personal independence payments, PIP, which is replacing the old disability living allowance. So it's going really, really well at the moment.
And I mean, I remember we talked about this last time, that for some people, I mean, even the acronyms of the benefits that are out there and the PIP and whatever, I mean, not only is it sometimes difficult for people to understand that, but to then go along and maybe sit in front of a professional who's doing the assessment, I would imagine for some people can be quite a scary proposition. So
it is, and I mean, a lot of people suffer from anxiety problems anyway, but even people with other disabilities or non-mental health problems, it can be, quite a nerve-wracking experience. And, the advocate is there to provide support, to help that person speak up, but to also to remind them of things they might have forgotten, or maybe to expand on things that they've talked about, beforehand, because the advocate will meet with the person beforehand to have, a good long chat with them to find out what their area of difficulty is.
And so for somebody maybe this morning who's got that letter through the letterbox that is saying that they've got an assessment coming up, and maybe immediately are feeling a little stressful about it, how would it work if they made contact then, Janet, with the service?
Well, we have various different referral agencies who you can contact. Help Direct, including Help Direct within the GP surgeries, are signed up to the scheme, as are the Citizens Advice Bureau, and that's in Preston, Chorley and South Ribble. Preston City Council Benefits Advice Department, Disability Equality, and your local job centres in Preston, Leyland and Chorley. Any of those people can refer you into our service.
Right. And are the assessments normally every 12 months now?
It depends on your condition, your disabilities. It can be anywhere between 6 months and 2 years. People who they think are less likely their condition may change would get the maximum 2 years before they get called again. And it is possible after that 2 years that they may not even need another medical. But there are other people who it's considered that their condition may improve, as an example, who will be called more frequently.
Right. So the advocate would meet with you, talk about the condition, and look at the things that would be important then to make sure that are highlighted when you go along for the appointment then.
Yes, that's right. And I mean, it may even be discussing what medication you're on, what tests and treatments you've been having. The advocate will help you sort out maybe copies of any letters from your GP or your consultant, and also talk through how whatever disability you've got affects your day-to-day life, because that's the most important thing. There can be different people with the same medical condition, but it can affect them in very different ways, and it's important that the assessors know how your condition affects you and how it restricts your life.
Because we've all been there, haven't we? We've had an appointment, or we're going somewhere, and in our head. We know what we're going to say when we go there. We know how we're going to play it. And then we get in front of the person and we totally forget what the things were we were going to ask and we were going to raise.
Well, exactly. And you sometimes you just sort of pick the 2 or 3 you think are most important and relevant. And it may be that there are other things that you hadn't thought about that may need to be considered. I mean, on average, I think when I've been meeting with people for the first time, we spend anywhere up to a couple of hours, doing a really in-depth assessment of what they need. Because obviously the assessment on the day with the health professional aren't as long as that. And it's important to make sure that, you give a good summary of what's most important to that person and how it affects them.
And so what area does the service cover, Janet?
Well, it's for any residents mainly in Preston, Chorley and South Ribble, but it doesn't matter if you live outside that area, but you have to be attending for your assessment at either of the 2 centres in Preston. Now, for employment support allowance, that's Marshall House on the Ring Road, just up from the job centre, and for personal independence payments, it's Greenbank Street Clinic, which is on Ripon Street in Preston. But obviously people from Chorley may well be coming to Preston for those assessments because there isn't an assessment centre in that area.
Right. And is there a criteria for who is eligible to be supported?
Not at all. Anybody who feels that they need support, and even if you do have family, friends and carers who are willing to accompany to that appointment, it may be a good idea to have a chat with one of our advocates first, because they might just be able to provide you with a bit of advice about what to expect. We have had a couple of queries from people who've been going for assessments outside our area, for example, Wigan, Warrington, because they live in West Lancashire, and we have still been able to give them some information and support and advice before they go for that appointment. So that's something that could also be helpful.
But if the person wants, the advocate would go and actually sit in on the appointment with them?
Yes, if it's at either of the 2 Preston centres, yes, we can. It's a volunteer-based project, but all our volunteers are fully trained in the benefits health assessment process, and obviously they are DBS, which is what replaces the old CRB check. So they're all people who've been fully accredited. At the moment, I have a team of around a dozen volunteers, but we are training more volunteers at the moment.
Right.
And we're hoping that we can sort of build that up to maybe 20 people by the end of the year.
And I take it is all, of course, totally confidential? It's
totally confidential. It's a free service, and we are independent of the different referral agencies.
Yes,
we are also independent from Atos themselves and the Department of Work and Pensions. We're just an independent charity.
Lovely. So, Janet, just remind our listeners where they can go to find out more about the service, or if they're needing to talk to someone, the best way to go ahead with that.
Either in person or by telephone, you can contact Help Direct, the Citizens Advice Bureau, Preston City Council Benefits Advice Department, Disability Equality North West, and the ESA advisor at your local job centre.
Lovely. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you again, and hopefully we shall be seeing you in the not too distant future to let us know how it is all going at that time.
That's lovely, and thank you very much for inviting me on again.
Thank you, Janet. Bye-bye.
We hope you've enjoyed this interview as much as we have. Why not join our Chat City family and give us a tweet at ChatCityPFM.